Hey everyone, nice to see you all again after a 5-minute break here. I'm Brian. I lead developer relations at Phantom. If you haven't heard of Phantom before, I know this is a mostly Ethereum conference. Phantom is the leading wallet on Solana. But what's unique also about Phantom is that the founding story of Phantom, the 3 founders all came from the Ethereum ecosystem very early on. They were employees of 0x. They saw this multi-chain narrative starting to take hold, and they said we need to build a wallet that gives first-class experience to all these chains. So this is a bit of a homecoming for Phantom. What I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today is some of the lessons that we've learned as a company in building this wallet. It's currently in beta. We'll talk about how you can access it afterwards. So I won't bury the lead here. The 3 lessons that we've learned as a company with respect to multi-chain are: number 1, fight phishing. This one sounds boring, but it's actually what we think is the most important problem in Web3 today, and we'll get into that. 2 is keep everything in one place. And number 3, for especially developers, don't toggle, and we'll get into that as well. But before we dive into this, I just want to give a little sense also of the scale that Phantom currently operates. A lot of people have heard about Solana, being fast and cheap. But over the last year, Phantom has seen over 3 million active users. And in the last year alone, we facilitated 282 million transactions, which when you do the math on that, it's a little over 8 transactions a second. So kind of keeping up with some of the blockchains that exist in EVM. And we facilitated 49 million dApp connections. So all that to say is we've seen a lot of shit. And we want to teach you guys what we've seen over the years and what we're thinking about in multi-chain. So number 1, I talk about fight phishing. And a lot of people might say, okay, yeah, phishing. We've seen the Twitter bots retweeting my stuff and asking me to contact support. But what does phishing actually mean? On the left here, you have a screenshot of Phantom, and on Solana, this is kind of a theme that we've seen. Like Solana was so cheap and just pushing the bounds for what blockchains can do. We're running the problems that we foresee the EVM running into in the future. And some of the things that people get are NFT airdrop spam, where they open up their wallet, they see a new NFT, looks great, and it says, "Congratulations, you won. Go to this address, go to this website, and claim your cash prize." Then they'll end up going to that site, and something will the site will act like it's bugging out and say, "Oh, you need to enter your seed phrase to continue." And more often than not, when you're dealing with people who are new to crypto, and they're in these scenarios where they feel like they've won something, maybe it's time sensitive, this is actually a huge attack vector for that. In addition to NFT airdrop spam, we see things like deceptive messages, whether on Twitter or Telegram or Discord. Websites being malicious in and of themselves, just not only asking for your seed phrase, but maybe interacting with a program that's going to sweep all of your funds. And also scams related to various networks, like TradeMe, DevNet, girly Ethereum, which now has a price, but for real Ethereum and new users not fully understanding the weight of those decisions. So some of the things that we're doing to tackle this, and we do view this as the biggest problem, is giving users the tools directly. So related to NFT airdrop spam, in Phantom, we actually give users the options to just one-click report and hide spam, and we have a model that learns on this and in advance can start to block known addresses that are disseminating these NFTs. Solana also has a really great feature called Burn Collectible, in which a user could say, "I don't like this thing showing up in my wallet or in the spam folder either." I can delete it from the blockchain and essentially get paid the native token back as rent that was storing this. We actually see this as one of our highest engaged features as well. In addition to giving users the tools directly to combat spam, we're really proud of the work that we do around transaction simulation. Some of you guys might have heard of a service called Blowfish, which is also launched on EVM now. We work very closely with the Blowfish team. So at the time of the user actually visits a dApp and initiates a transaction, we can simulate what this transaction will actually do to their wallet, present it in total human readable form. So in this case, saying a warning saying you're about to approve something that's going to transfer all of your USDC to this individual. And then over time, we actually learn a lot about these patterns as well. And we can start to fingerprint on-chain the contracts themselves and certain patterns that chains have to just prevent this up front. And then the last piece of this as well is, let's say that, some of these users end up still getting to these sites in the first place, and then there's deceptive messages on those sites to kind of trick them. how can we stop them from even getting there in the first place? As a Chrome extension, you're actually able to get the trusted domain from the website through like Chrome APIs. And we've developed an open source block list that anyone can contribute to. We'll review it. And we have over 2,000 submissions. And then when a user will go to a site, Phantom will automatically flag that this has been reviewed and viewed as unsafe. They can obviously bypass that warning if they choose to. But this has been great in that we've actually facilitated over 1,200 takedowns of scam sites as well, working with a partner called Fishford on that. So just to give a high-level overview of what we're doing on the security metrics, and this kind of puts into perspective, on Solana how often phishing occurs, and when transactions are extremely cheap and the cost to try to trick users is cheap, on L2s in the future, what we see as big problems. So in the last year alone, we've blocked 69,000 phishing sites. We facilitated over 1,200 takedowns of those sites. I said, NFT burning is one of our highest engaged features. Users have burned over 700,000 NFTs on Solana through Phantom. And the big one that we're particularly proud about is that 18,000 number. And so that's 18,000 individual instances of where a user, if they had approved the transaction, it would have drained all of their funds. And we view this as 18,000 users who just, when you have your wallet drained, you would have just left Web3 altogether. And we think that before, a lot of people talk about building for the next billion users and bringing in more people, but we think there's a retention problem. We think that if we let the status quo sit as it is today and blockchains continue to get more scalable, and we're basically letting people fall into traps where all of a sudden they lose all of their funds, we will never be able to retain this mass adoption audience that we all want. So we're particularly proud around that. I have a little bit of time left, so I'll get into the last two lessons as well. This is more on the product side, and so how we're thinking about a multi-chain world and continuing to add more chains over time. And it's this key theme of just keeping everything in one place. And this ties in with lesson 3 a lot, but the idea of having these networks be completely separated and a user has to actually understand that I'm on this network and I need to do this on this other network is something that we think the wallet as a whole in the wallet industry can really do a lot to abstract away. So on the left, you have a little screen grab of what the fungible section looks like on Phantom. We'll list, Solana, we'll list Ethereum right next to each other, and Polygon as well, and then have little badges for the ERC20s and the SPL tokens on those respective chains. But essentially reinforcing that each chain is a first-class citizen, and as a user, you don't have to necessarily think about, am I toggled to the right chain here? Same thing goes for NFTs as well. A lot of people don't know this about Solana, but is clearly the number 2 NFT ecosystem outside of Ethereum. There is a really interesting user segment there of a particularly younger crowd that we've seen as well, who's maybe Generation Z. They're interested in NFTs. Maybe they want cheaper NFTs. They want more utility, things to do with these NFTs on chain. Giving a first-class experience to those NFTs alongside the Bored Apes and the CryptoPunks that everyone knows is something that we think is really important to continue to let those use cases flourish. And then the last thing for all the designers out there, this is actually a problem that we ran into a lot of Phantom is, okay, if we're giving this first-class experience to all these chains, how do we let users actually, power users interact and say, like, get my address or know, which chain this wallet necessarily corresponds to? We have this brand new account switcher, which previews on the left, which we love, which is a one-click copy kind of paradigm. And something that we found particularly interesting too is when adding chains, not necessarily taking anything for granted or any assumptions. So you'll see on the right, there's an Ethereum address and a Polygon address. They're obviously the same address. Most people in the crowd will probably know that. But for most users who are on Solana, there's 3 million unique users who maybe don't interact with EVM as much, actually laying that out for them and not just assuming that users know these things has been a really key insight for us as well. The last lesson, I'll go back here. The last lesson that we've learned, which very much relates to keeping everything in one place, is this concept of don't toggle. And this is more for the developers out there, but what Phantom has done with our injected provider, which, if you're familiar with window.ethereum and MetaMask, it's very much the same way. We actually injected at window.phantom.ethereum to prevent namespace collisions. But that coexists right alongside window.solana as well. So what does this mean is that when a user or when an app connects and goes through window.ethereum, Phantom just considers you connected not only on Ethereum, but also on the Solana provider as well. So as a user, you just connect once, and all of a sudden any chain that Phantom supports, you can just use. And we think this is the right paradigm going forward as more and more L2s come online, more and more chains come online. It's just not feasible to ask the end user to have to juggle which network they're always on. And on the right, you've probably seen some of these errors before. If you're on Uniswap and you're buying on Ethereum and then you want to jump over to Lens on Polygon, and you'll get a pop-up and it says, do you want this dApp to change the network? This is just unneeded friction. Users, especially the users that we all want to bring into the space, shouldn't have to think about that. So as a wallet, what we've done is completely abstracted that from the end user. And this is a little demo of what it looks like for a developer here. This is a sandbox app that Phantom has that you can find on our developer documentation, docs.phantom.app. But on the left there, you'll see that you've connected once, and all of a sudden there's 3 chains that this app can get an address from. We can list them all out. So you have Ethereum, Polygon, Solana on the top left there. And on the right, there's 3 different networks. You have Ethereum, you have Polygon, and Solana, and some provider methods for those, sending a transaction. In this case, I'm showing off signing a message, which doesn't incur gas. But you can see the Phantom pop-up that happens when you click any of these corresponding buttons is instant. To an end user, it's really important that we don't, favor one chain or show that, hey, you need to actually know managing that you're switching the network right now. What actually matters is at the time that you're signing something that the wallet simulates it in a human-readable way and tells you exactly what's going to happen to your assets. And so on the left here, the chain is set to Ethereum, and then I click on Polygon, and you'll see very quickly there's some feedback in the center console calling wallet switch Ethereum chain method. And this is something that, if you are interacting with the window.ethereum paradigm as a developer, which most apps are set up to, you're very used to calling this method and then having it be this async function that you're waiting and hoping that the wallet's going to uphold their end of the bargain. But we'll always be able to return true on that and keep the user flow going. And then you can see, a Solana message, which is a completely different format, being printed to the console as well. So those are the 3 main lessons in review that we've learned from building out our multi-chain wallet. Number 1, we'll harp on this all day, is fighting phishing. We really view this as the number 1 problem, not just for wallets, but for everybody involved to solve. Web3 has a retention problem, and we all need to play our part in fighting phishing. Number 2 is keeping everything in one place. From a user perspective, seeing all of your fungible assets in one place, all of your NFTs, being able to seamlessly copy addresses from any chain without having to dig through your settings. And then number 3, don't toggle for your developers out there. Connect once to Phantom, use it everywhere. That's all for my talk today. Thank you so much for learning about Phantom. If you want to know more, check out our website, phantom.app, or hit me up. There's my email or Twitter. We're currently in beta, and we're ramping it up very fast. So if you want a beta code, come find me after this. Thank you.